Hey everyone, this is Heather Christie with the Evolve to Win show. And I want to talk to you about executive presence. The most common request that I get for coaching is about executive presence and really helping people understand how they're showing up and really elevating that presence so that they have a better opportunity to lead and influence others to make positive changes. So we're in some crazy times right now. And now more than ever, people are really depending upon leadership. They need leadership in these times of uncertainty. So I've got three thoughts that I want to share with you on how you can really get more intentional right now in your leadership and elevate your executive presence. Because one thing I know for certain is that your presence, good or bad, is amplified during times like this. So regardless of your title, how you're showing up is going to make a lasting impact on your team around you. John Maxwell is one of my mentors, and in his most recent book called Leadership, I recall him saying, lean into uncertainty, right? The best of the best leaders lean in times of uncertainty. And so the very first tip that I have in terms of getting intentional about leadership and your executive presence is to make decisions. So we were just in a quarterly strategic planning retreat with an executive team. We actually ended up doing a last minute call and making it by Zoom instead of flying people in from around the country. And one of the things that we were discussing was the fact that there are team members from all over the place asking a lot of questions right now. They're uncertain about what the expectations are. They're uncertain about whether or not they're going to work, whether they're going to be able to work from home, whether if their children are off school, are the expectations still the same that I have to work full time? Can I take some time off? There's just people are filled right now with questions. And the questions I'm sharing are just some of the logistical questions, let alone what's happening in the financial markets and what do I do with my children if I don't have any type of daycare. So again, uncertainty, unfortunately, has become the new norm. When people are uncertain, they typically freeze, right? In uncertainty, making a decision becomes really difficult. So the number one tip that I have is get really good at making the decisions that can be made. So I want you to think about that. There are a lot of things that are outside of our control right now. And anything outside of our control, the only thing we can control is how we respond to that. So make a decision every single day and maybe multiple times throughout the day about how you will respond to whatever the circumstance presents, right? So how you respond is going to make a massive difference right now. That's the first decision that each of us can always make. It's the one thing that we have control over no matter what happens. How will you respond? How do you want to show up today? How do you want other people to perceive you? What do you want them to be saying about you when you leave the room? Do you want people to feel better because of your presence, or do you want them to feel a little bit off? So make that decision and make it constantly throughout the day and remind yourself, because I think what happens a lot is in times of uncertainty, times of high stress, we actually lose access to our thinking part of our brain, to our prefrontal cortex. And we go into that stressed out side of ourselves. And then we show up at our extremes, which are typically pretty unpleasant. So the more that you have that decision made for yourself about how you show up, how you respond, the more likely you'll be able to stick to that path. What other decisions can be made? One of our clients is a client that has an office location and is not doing any remote working or telecommuting. And they are now being forced in some circumstances to be able to do that, whether that's because people have children at home now that they weren't planning on taking care of, or just, in certain instances, people really in a high risk group need to be working from home and not be in that office environment. So one of the decisions that they made during our strategy session was to create a work from home policy, because of course it didn't exist. And I don't know if you're in that same place. If you happen to be in a company and you've never dealt with having employees work from home before, you may not be prepared for that. So what is your policy? So it's time to really sit down and think through not only the logistics of who can work from home, how they work from home, how do you manage a team remotely? If your managers aren't used to this, there's some real crunch time kind of training that is, a huge opportunity right now. So really deciding who works from home and who doesn't, if you have that option, and what are those criteria? There's some great templates out there that we found as we were working with our clients on creating this new policy. The other thing that's really important is what technology will you be using? And do you have a VPN? Do you have a secure way for people to work from home? Are you going to send them away with laptops or iPads? Can they use their work from home computer? What are the rules around it? What are the confidentiality requirements? So there may be a lot of questions that you have right now. And by the way, if you are someone who has a work from home policy that you'd be willing to share and post on this link, or somebody who works in that space, I invite you to put some thoughts out there for people in what your work from home policy is and how's it working for you. What are the challenges that you have faced? I'm going to talk a little bit more about when people are working remotely, how you can continue to be intentional in your leadership there, but really making sure that you have a communication policy established and the clearest of expectations, especially if this is brand new for your company. So again, number one, make the decisions that can be made. And the reason that I think it's so important to make the decisions that can be made is think about this. We've got people in this place of tons of uncertainty. For every little bit of uncertainty that you can clarify and give people confidence, give them an answer, a solution, that's one less thing they have to worry about. So I want you to be thinking about, what can I take off their plate right now? What can I help them to put aside? And I want you to consider that if you have multiple people in your office, whether that's an executive team or partners who you work with, and you need alignment to make these decisions, please tell people right now a date by when you will give them an answer. Because it doesn't really work to say, you know what, we haven't figured that out right yet just now, but we're working on it. Let them know we have a meeting scheduled on this day at this time. We're going to be reviewing exactly that. It's really important to us. We will communicate as soon as we can. Please hold tight in the meantime. So give them a date certain. If you don't have an answer, make a list of the concerns that people are coming to you with and figure out one by one what can be addressed, what can be decided. What I was sharing with my clients this week, I'm not even concerned that you make the very best or the perfect decision. Don't let trying to find a perfect solution get in the way of coming up with a decision. So sometimes you have to just make the best decision you can in the moment and know that during these times of uncertainty, if you did make the wrong decision or something changes, that you may need to communicate a new direction. So always leave that as a possibility for yourself. That might allow you to make that decision. Okay, so we're working on number one, make decisions wherever you can make decisions, whatever you can control, bring clarity to your team and help them to eliminate that worry and that stress wherever possible. All right, number two, make sure you have a plan right now. Most people in times of uncertainty, the plan goes out the window, right? Because things have changed. So you may need to go back and look at your past plan and revise it, right? You may need a brand new plan and you may need a contingency plan, but the one thing I know is that there needs to be a plan. And so in times of uncertainty, without a plan, the danger is that you can wander, right? The danger is that you get to that place where you start drifting. And if you don't have a clear plan of action, it's so much easier to get distracted. It's so much easier to pick up that phone and get on social media and maybe get sucked into conversations that really aren't moving you forward, right? So make sure you have a plan. Make sure that you understand your priorities. Now, one of the things that we've also helped our clients focus on recently is to see if there's any way that you can actually get more focused on your priority, right? So if you've got 3 or 5 or 10 different things that as a company you're doing right now, what can you do to eliminate anything? Is there anything that you can take off your plate or take off the plate of your employees so that they're more focused. Is there one priority instead of multiple priorities? So see what you can do to eliminate anything that isn't critical and essential right now so that people can stay focused, because I think we are dealing with a lot of distraction. So the other thing is the backup plan, right? Make sure that whatever plan you have, that you start talking with your team members, with your colleagues about what is the backup plan. So as an example, if you were forced to do some sort of shutdown and everyone has to work from home, what then, right? If that's not what you're used to, are there some people who aren't going to be able to perform their functions? How are you going to treat that? What are you going to do? So I think that's really important. There's always an opportunity here to bring your legal counsel in, bring in HR consultants if needed. If you're in a space, especially in small business, where you don't have the incredible resources to rely upon, reach out to some other resources. And if you need some resources, please post in the comments here, and let's find a way to get you connected with people who can help you. Sometimes you just don't have an answer right now and you need someone to give you some guidance there. The third thing that I'd like to share with you is a thought for how you get intentional about your leadership during this time is to communicate constantly. So communication is more important than ever before. And I want to share something really important with you, and I want you to really remember this and stay conscious of this. I'm sure you already know it, but I have to repeat it for you here, and that's this. There are a number of people out there right now who are really, really stressed out. They're fearful, they're confused, but they have the type of behavioral style where they won't share that confusion or that stress or that fear or that worry. Instead, they internalize it. Now, for people like this, you won't really see it in their body language or in their communication that they're really stressed out, but they're feeling it, and they're feeling it tremendously, and it's all being internalized. So when it comes to communicating, this is such an opportunity to empathize with others, to get really connected with others, to just check in with people and find out how they're doing and how their family's doing and what are their concerns and where do they need support. In terms of what you can do in your executive presence, the ability to actively listen right now, I would say, is the number one communication strategy that you can work on, right? So actively listening. This is actually a really interesting thing. My favorite book on active listening is actually a chapter of a book. It's John Maxwell's book, Becoming a Person of Influence, and it's chapter 4. And he's even got an active listening quiz to help you figure out whether or not you're a really good active listener. And he talks about things like, when you're actively listening, you're actually seeking to understand how the other person feels. You're reading between the words and you're asking questions to see if you're really in tune with what they're trying to communicate. Right? Not everybody is an incredible communicator. And if you've got people who tend to internalize their emotions, you have to get really good at asking questions to find out how they're really doing. So the other thing is that when somebody is talking to you, do you wait until that person is completely finished talking before you make the decision about what they're trying to say to you? So sometimes we know people so well that we can anticipate and guess what they are going to be saying to us. But if you're in that space and you already think you know what they're going to say to you, then you're not truly actively listening. Right now, more than ever, people really need a good listener. It makes a massive, massive impact. Think about how it feels for you when someone is truly listening to you. So it's one of the best things we can do right now is be there, be empathetic, be a great listener. Really seek to understand how other people are feeling, what their challenges are, their worries are. The more that you can help people believe that things are going to be okay, the better you make them feel. They'll always, always remember that. So as you're communicating, one other thought here is to really be focused on present future instead of past present. So leaders, the best of the best leaders are so good at creating a vision. One of the things that you can do there is really work on your storytelling skills in communication, right? And talk about what this will look like once we all come through it and how strong we'll be as a team and what we will have learned and and, what adversity does for us and how much it builds us, just really talking about what that future looks like, paint a picture that's a bright future and help people to feel good for a little bit, right? To know that this will pass. We don't know when, but we know that it will, and what it looks like on the other side of it. So those are my 3 tips real fast to recap. Number 1, make every decision you can make. Get intentional about making those decisions. Take away the concern and take away the uncertainty wherever you can. Number 2, have a plan and possibly even a backup plan, and make sure that everybody understands the plan and help people to focus and prioritize so that they're still moving forward in their day-to-day work. And last, communicate constantly. Be a great listener and communicate as much as you can to make sure that people have the clarity about everything that you do know right now. So I wish you all the best in these really, really interesting and I know very challenging times. I'm hoping that you stay safe and that your family, your friends, your employees, and your clients stay safe as well. Have a great day. Thank you for tuning in. I'd love to hear any feedback that you have or any resources that you have that are really working for you during these times of uncertainty.